hold. And one of the things that Allah does do is give you signs. And there's a tafsir of the Quran called Ruh Bayan, written in the Ottoman Empire in the 10th century, Allama Ismail Hakim Hanafi. It's written in Persian, but it's from a Sufi perspective as well, and you know the Ottomans, they were hardcore Sufis. I met there was a Wahhabi scholar recently in Pakistan who said that if you think the Brahmins are bad, you don't know what the Ottomans were like. And which then goes against the point that most people said the Brahmins made it up in India. Whereas the reality that you see is all over the world. If you go to places like Morocco, you know, the eastern parts of Africa, the western parts of Africa, you go to the Ottoman Empire, you see the same Aqidah. You go to any mosque in Turkey, you see them praying namaz exactly like we do. And that shows the golden thread that we have. You go to Morocco, you go to a place like Mauritania, you see them celebrating the Mawlid like we do. If anything, they put us to shame when they celebrate the Mawlid that the Prophet ﷺ. So you see this golden chain that we have. So Allama Ismail Hakim mentions this narration that when we die, the angel of death turns up and takes our soul without asking us, just takes our soul. That is right. But when the angel of death comes to the prophets, he seeks their permission. Because of the Prophet of Allah. So one day Yaqub al-Islam met the angel of death and said to him that when you come to, before you come to take my soul, let me know beforehand. So I can prepare for it. So the angel of death said, fair enough, I will do. Then later on, the angel of death arrived and Sayyidina Musa al-Islam asked him, why are you coming? He said, I've come to take your soul by permission. Musa al-Islam said, didn't I ask you to seek permission to let me know before you came? He said, we did. He said, when did you let me know that you were about to come? He said that you had dark hair and it became grey. Your bones were strong and they became weak. And you used to stand up straight and now you can't stand up straight. And these are signs that Allah sends to every man and every woman that their death is approaching. So whenever you get these signs from Allah, He tells you to sort yourselves out now. The time is coming for you. So when you do see your first grey hair, when you do see yourself forgetting certain things, then realize that actually now your end is coming near and you start preparing for that. That's a mercy from Allah Ta'ala. He's telling you that now Allah Ta'ala knows your fitrah, knows your nature that you are neglectful. But these reminders come to you and tell you that. So going back to our topic about financial independence. As you know, today is the 14th of August, which is the Independence Day of Pakistan. A lot of people have been talking about that, celebrating that. Tomorrow is the Independence Day of India. A lot of people are talking about that and we'll be celebrating that. There's a lot of debate that happens at this time of the year. People say, was it worth independence? Was it worth all this trouble that we had? What is independence and all that stuff? So we're not going to get into that today because there's not much time. And a lot of the time, this national independence or national sovereignty, the governments, they don't really matter to us. It doesn't really matter to the man on the street whether your country that you're in, who's run by, doesn't really matter. But what that does matter to us is financial independence. Because everybody deals with finances. And as I say, everybody has money problems. Either you've got too much or you've got too little. Or generally, actually, you think you've got too much or you think you've got too little. So we'll come on to later on whether you actually have too much or too little. So there's a Islamic concept around that. But everybody thinks they haven't got enough, and everybody thinks that they should have more, and everybody thinks they've got money problems. And we'll come on to that. So something that started up recently in the last few years, especially in America, is a movement called financial independence, and it's called FIRE, F-I-R-E, which means financial independence, or financially independent and retire early. So people want to become financially independent. And a lot of people are being influenced by that because, as you know, a lot of us get influenced by influencers. Look at social media, people are putting things out and talking about it, making that to be such a good thing, such a great thing. So a lot of people have been asking me about that as well in my professional life, about how do we do this? Is this something that we should be doing? And isn't this a good thing to be financially independent? It sounds like a good thing to be independent financially. But what's the Islamic perspective on this? Because something may sound good to you, it may look glittery, it may look really nice, but actually when you think about it and inspect it, you realise actually it's not as good as it's meant to be. But it's not aligned with what Islam is telling you to do. So we need to put everything that we do within the Islamic perspective. So where this financial independence starts, so there are some good things in it, and there are some things that actually aren't applicable to Muslims, and we need to avoid that. And I just want to make sure people are aware of that, because you will see a lot of this coming up. A lot of people are talking about this now, especially since COVID, where people have been reassessing their lives, and reassessing, how they live their lives and what they should be doing. So basically, this started off with one of the problems of society is that people realised that you wake up in the morning and you rush to work and you spend time at work and you come back home from work and you're absolutely tired and then you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and go back to work again and then you do that again and again. Weeks pass by, months pass by, years pass by, and the next thing you realise, your life passed by. And you can't give up work, because if you give up work, who's going to pay the bills? Where's your food going to come from? How do you feed your children? How do you keep a roof over your head? So people felt that all they were doing was that they were living for work. All they were doing was just working all the time, working all the time. Most of their time was being spent on work. And I said earlier about your life passing away. People realise they're getting older. The best years of their life were spent at work, trying to do overtime because they want to get more money, working 6 days a week, some people working 7 days a week, some people even working 2 jobs, just to make the basics, just to make sure that they can fulfill their expenditure. So they seem to be not living to live, but they live to work. So that's all they were doing. They're waking up in the morning to go to work, they're coming back in the evening, resting, so they go to work the next day. They think there's more to life than just working. That's what people find that we can't do this. This is wrong. And that's a good concept for us as Muslims as well. There's more to life than just working. We weren't created just to work. So people realise that we can't just keep doing this. So they thought, how can we break this cycle? How can you come out of this? So one of the things that they said was, become financially independent and retire early. So work hard and then set yourself a target that maybe retire while you're still young. Because mostly people are going to retire when they're 60 or 70 or 80 even, because when they've got nothing left, what's the point of retiring when you can't do anything? So people want to think about, what's life all about? Life's not about working, and then when you can't work anymore, you then get sent off to an old people's home and then you die. And what was the whole point of that? What was the point of actually existing? So they then came up with the concept that let's try and work really hard now and save a lot of money, and then work out how much money you might need, and then let's retire early. So let's retire at the age of 40 or 45 or 50. So they work out how much money they think they will need, and then they do everything they can to earn that much money. So if you work out, someone said I need like £200,000 a year, someone said I need that much. So basically, you work out they need about $30,000 a year, or £25,000 a year to basically live, and then live for that. And then they just work flat out. And to work flat out, they save a lot of money as well. So then downsize, you see people who downsize, who live basically like tramps, wouldn't change their clothes, wouldn't buy new clothes, wouldn't buy new cars. They just basically said the next 10, 15, 20 years they dedicate their whole life just to working, not spending any, to create that pot of money that they can retire and use that pot of money to live off and then enjoy life as it was. So that's what the concept was about, being financially independent and being able to retire early. So they work really hard to get to that concept of where then they can retire early, and then they thought and they think that they can then do what they want. Now the issue with that is that first you're going to really skimp and save. So a lot of people then just don't have any kids, don't have children, or they don't get married, because obviously getting married, having children is going to cause a lot of burden on you, financial burden, how you're going to save money. So all of these concepts come into, so these people are just totally focused on trying to save as much money as they possibly can, save as much money as they possibly can so that they can get to a stage where then they can just give up work. So that's their idea, because they see work as a problem, that they're having to work all the time, they're dependent on that. Therefore they become independent from work, because they're not financially dependent on work. So when they become independent, then they think that then life will be all simple, and life will be all easy, and life will be all good. So people have tried to do that. Very few people actually succeed in doing that. Because anybody who's trying to save money and try to live within their means, or try to live at a basic level, will tell you it's very, very hard, especially once you've got used to things. Especially with the amount of expenditure that there is nowadays that you have to go through, it's very hard. So a lot of people are making these sacrifices of doing all this stuff and depriving themselves. They're damaging their health, because if you're eating poorly, they're eating the basics, they're not spending any money, they're not spending any time for themselves. They're always working, trying to work as much as they can to reach their financial goal quickly. So they're not resting, they're not relaxing, they're always stressed out. They've got no friends left, because obviously having friends, you've got to give them time. If you give them time, you can't be working. Also having friends costs money as well. You have to spend time with them, go out with them, chill out with them, and you've got to spend money on one another as well, give gifts. So all of this stuff is that they become absolute isolationists. That's one thing that Islam doesn't want us to be doing, is that doing that. So these people are totally focused on getting their financial goal and they're giving up everything else. And they've gone to that extreme. And as you know, Islam isn't about extreme. Islam is about moderation in everything we do. So although financial independence sounds like a really good idea, when you get into how people are trying to do it, they're becoming really dependent on other things and really depriving themselves of everything else that they should be having and doing because they're trying to reach that goal, which to be fair is quite unsustainable. Because some people are trying to set themselves up with like they want $300,000 a year or £300,000 in the bank, or they want £500,000 in the bank, and you ask yourself, how long will it take you to save that much money? So if you look at most profits or most kind of dividend returns, you're looking at 5% return or something. So if you had £500,000 invested in a normal like stocks in dividends or something else, you'd only be getting $25,000 a year. It's not a lot of money, but £500,000, saving £500,000 for a normal person who's working is a lot of money. It can take lots and lots, it can many, many years. And people are driving themselves to do that and driving themselves to do that. And a lot of our Muslims are seeing that as well and trying to copy that, and with the detrimental effects that it's having on them. So what we need to ask ourselves is, what's the Islamic perspective on this? What does Islam say about this, and what does Islam say about financial independence? Does Islam want us to be financially independent? And how can we become financially independent in this world? And what does the Quran say about this? First thing to remember is that when we say we want to become financially independent, why do we want to become financially independent? What is freedom? And are we really free in this world? Ask yourself as a Muslim, what does freedom actually mean? Does it mean that you can do anything you want? It doesn't mean that. Because you can't do anything you want. As I said, Allah has given you natural science. If you look at your physical stuff, you can't do anything you want. One thing, you can't live forever. You can't live forever. That tells you you're not free. There's restrictions on your freedom. You can't live forever. You will die one day. You can't maintain your age forever. You will get old. You will get weak. No matter how hard you try in the gym and no matter how healthy you be, one day you are going to get old. Your body is naturally going to become weak. So in nature, Allah tells you, you can't do what you want. Not in this dunya, you can't do what you want. So you can't be free, as these people want to become independent and free. You will always have these restrictions on you. I want to touch this, I want to jump and touch the roof, but I can't do that. Physically, I just cannot do that. So I'm not free to do that because of physically constraints upon us to do that. I want to be able to run 100 meters in 10 seconds, but you can't do that because there's a restriction on us. It tells you you're not free to do whatever you want. There's parameters around what you've got, so there's natural, physical parameters. I want my parents to live forever. I want my friends to live forever, but they're not going to live forever. We've got no discretion. We haven't got that independence. As a Muslim, you realise that there are limits to what you would call being able to do what you want to do. There's limits around that, and you've got to see the world in that sense. Then there's legal constraints upon us as well. Now, it doesn't matter how rich you become, you can't go around slapping people or hitting people, can you? You'll be arrested and sent to prison. You can't do that. You can't kill anybody else. You can't take somebody's property. If somebody doesn't want to sell it to you, what can you do? So there's legal restrictions on that. There's Sharia restrictions from the Quran that Allah has imposed upon us as well. It doesn't matter how rich you are, you can't marry more than 4 women. You can't marry more than one husband at any time. You've got all those limits upon you. There's lots of other things you can't do. Even when you can do something, physically you stop. For example, how many times have you been to a buffet and you see all those dishes and you think, oh, brilliant. I can't wait to get stuck into all of those. Within 10 minutes, you're full up. You can't have anything else. So it just shows there are restrictions upon what we would call independence or what you would call freedom. So this notion that people have, I'll be independent, if I have all this money or I have all this independence, I'll be able to do what I want. You can't do what you want. Sometimes the weather's against you. Sometimes you think, tomorrow, go out, chill out and do this, and then it's raining all day. What can you do then? And all that stuff. Similarly, it's too hot, as it's recently been. We think, heat is good. Heat is good for us. Although because we live in a cold country, we think heat is good for us. But when it's really hot, you realise actually it's quite restricting on us. And have you thought about this fact that Jahannam, the hell, is hot, not cold? So you can see that fire is the punishment, heat is the punishment. So So a lot of us, want to go around sunbathing and love the heat to a certain level. But actually, when it comes to punishment, it's heat that's the punishment. And you see, a lot more people die, from the heat than they do from the cold. So although we think, heat is good for us, it's quite restrictive, although similarly the weather is. So there's lots of restrictions about what we are doing, and what we can do, what we should be doing. So these are restrictions that we put on. So you need to see within that context. So the other thing to think about is, when you come to financial independence, that is, they don't want to work because they don't want to waste their life working away. They want to enjoy their life, have time to themselves to do what they want. And I said, you can't do what you want because there's restrictions on what you want to do, both from natural, legally, and from the Sharia. But the question to ask ourselves is, do we want to be free enough that we don't want to work? So should a Muslim strive to reach a position where he doesn't need to work? Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, and also, if Allah Ta'ala wanted, He could have increased Allah could have increased your risk, the ibadi, for His servants. He could have increased your risk for your servants. He could have given you so much provision that you never needed to work. He could have given you so much that you never need to work. But what did Allah Ta'ala say? If Allah Ta'ala did this, you would call fitna on the earth, you would call fights on the earth, you would call calamity, you would just cause so many issues on the earth. So Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran that if we had given you risk, so much risk, that you didn't need to work or make any effort for it, what the human being would have done was cause fitna on the earth, and we just messed about. So from this you realize that us having to work for our risk, for our livelihood, for our nourishment, for our food, for our shelter, us having to work for this is a mercy from Allah Ta'ala. And it's a sign from Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala wants us to do this. Now you ask yourself this, if you didn't work, and you see that when we're on holidays, if you didn't work, what would you be doing? You'd fall ill. Because you'd go to bed late, you'd wake up late. A lot of people don't work, sometimes they don't even wake up till 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they don't go to sleep till late. They start eating badly, they start messing about, and you see that a lot of people, when they retire, they physically fall away, they mentally fall away. Your physical, that routine of having to go to work on a regular basis, having to get up on time, having to go to bed on time, eating on time, that routine is a mercy from Allah Ta'ala. It keeps you fit, and it keeps you strong, and it keeps you mentally active. If you didn't have any work to do all the time, you probably see that when people are unemployed and long term. If you look at them, you can tell they're long term unemployed because of their physique, because of their mental demeanour, because of their cleanliness, and etc. etc. You can tell that they don't work, and you can see them deteriorating. And when we're on holidays, you automatically drift in staying up late at night. You automatically drift in spending, waking up late, eating at odd times, not really having any routine, not having any purpose to your life, and you just drift away, and you would realise that you just fall away. So the fact that Allah Ta'ala has given us this work, this incentive, and this need to work and have this routine, this is a mercy from Allah Ta'ala that keeps you fit, keeps you on the straight and narrow. It also shows you that you need other people as well. Because if you didn't have anything, one of the things that people are doing nowadays, and you said that, when people are poor, they should love one another, care about one another, but when they became rich, they became arrogant and started fighting amongst one another because they said, I don't need you. I don't need you, I don't care about someone. So, you see that in families. In the old days when you needed people around you, you cared about your cousins, you cared about your uncles, you cared about your aunties because you needed that family around you, you needed a support network. Now that we've become rich, you think, I don't need them. And that fights are starting between families, issues are starting between families. So this dependency that's been created through this world, mutual dependency, that's a mercy from Allah Ta'ala. It forces you, if you don't want to have contact with other people, to meet other people. And you realise a lot of people make their friends through work. And they get to a stage where you spend most of your time with people at your workplace or people at your college or whatever you're doing. Those are the people you're meeting with. So you create this dependency amongst people and this mutual need for one another. And that's a mercy because you didn't need one another. You start fighting amongst one another. You don't respect one another. And as you know, sometimes people say to us, did you hear about that? Did you hear about that? And we say, no, we never heard about that because we're too busy doing our own stuff. And when haven't got anything else to do, you just start sitting around and start backbiting people, You start talking about the people, you start making up ideas, you start making up things about the people, and you start arguing with other people. So the fact that you're busy in your work and you're dedicated in your work and focused on that, that stops you having issues and stops you making arguments with other people. So when you do see somebody after a while, you really enjoy seeing them. But if you're not doing anything else, you've got nothing else to do, then the devil whispers in your heart all the time, and he puts these bad thoughts into your heart. But if you're already busy, so you having to work is a mercy from Allah Ta'ala. So having to work is a mercy from Allah Ta'ala. So our aim with financial independence should never be that we want to reach a stage where we give up work. Because why do you want to give up work at 40 or 45? Because remember this, the physical abilities that you've got, all your mental abilities that Allah has given you, they're a blessing from Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala has given you these blessings for 70 years, 60 years. Why are you only using them for 40 years? What's the other 20 years for? You've been given an ability to help others. You've been given an ability to use those. You'll be asked on the day of judgment, what did you do with these things? And if you want to give up work and all you're going to do is lie on the beach somewhere, or you're going to sit in bed watching Netflix every day, what a waste of those blessings from Allah Ta'ala. And on the day of judgment, you'll be asked from Allah Ta'ala, on the day of judgment, you'll be asked about all these blessings. So this effort, this physical capability that you've got, and this time that you've been given, are blessings from Allah Ta'ala. So you need to use these properly, not there to waste time, or not there just to fritter them away by sitting on the beach or watching TV or doing something else. So our aim isn't just that we can retire at 40 or 45 and then just chill out for the rest of your life. Life was not about chilling out. These are the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ said that there's two great blessings that Allah Ta'ala has given the human being, which he is duped into wasting. The first is good health, and the second is time and free time. So good health and time are blessings that you've got from Allah Ta'ala, but you don't realise you're going to end up wasting those, or you get duped into wasting those. And the ulama said that these are two great blessings if you really think about it. Because what it tells us that if you've got good health, obviously if you've got good health, you need to use it properly. If you've got good health, it doesn't mean you sit at home doing nothing. You've got to be using that health and using your physical fitness to do something. Good health means that inside your body everything's working properly. That's why you've got good health. If things inside you weren't working properly, you wouldn't have good health. But the fact that you've got good health means that everything inside your body is working really well. So that's why when you're young, you've got good health because everything's fine. As you get older, your knees start to go, your eyes start to go, you start to get diabetes or kidney problems or heart problems, and that shows the insides aren't working properly anymore. Things fall away. And free time and good time to yourself, that shows that your external matters, so health is your internal matters are right. Free time means your external matters are properly organised as well. So everybody here has got 24 hours in a day. People say, I don't know where you find the time, I don't know where you find the time. Everybody has 24 hours, nobody has more time than anyone else. Everyone has the same time. It just means that people who are able to do more things are more organised. They've got their matters sorted out, they're able to organise themselves in a way that they're able to create that extra time. So when people say, I've got no time to study, I've got no time to read the Quran, then what are you doing with that time? It means you haven't organised your life properly. It means you're actually dedicating things to the wrong things. Because everyone's got 24 hours, you're either sleeping too much, or you're wasting time doing other things, or you haven't got the balance right. So just as physical health comes from getting the balance right internally, free time and good time comes from getting your external life balanced. Some people say, I've got time to meet my parents. Your parents live down the road and you never see them. Why? Because you messed up, your routines are all messed up, your outside systems are all messed up. You need to get those balanced right. If you do get those balanced right, you find the right time for the right things. And that means there might be certain things you don't do, you're prioritising different things over different things, and you've got to get that bit right. So those are two blessings that you waste, because you've got time and you end up doing the wrong things, or you've got health and you neglect it. So you need to look after your health. The hadith in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ said that the servant is closest to Allah Ta'ala when he's in sajda. So the person is closest to Allah Ta'ala when he's in sajda. So now, wouldn't that be a great tragedy that you ruin your health and you can't do sajda anymore? If there's any reason for you to be fit and healthy, it's so that you can do sajda. That should be your motivation. I can read my nawaz properly, I can do the ruku and I can do sajda. Because what you get from the sajda the dua that you make in sajda when you put your head down in front of Allah Ta'ala, that is the closest you will ever be to Allah Ta'ala. And now if you can't do that, so that just shows how you've not looked after your health. So if there's any reason for you to look after your health, that's the reason. And the other point about trying, the greatest tragedy if you say, I haven't got time to do sajda. So let alone being able to do it. If you haven't got time to do sajda, then that shows it's a greater tragedy in your life. So Islam does want us to be working because it keeps us active and it keeps us doing something. However, it all depends on what kind of work you're doing. So when we talk about retiring early, if you're doing a work that's mundane, that isn't actually being good for you, then you might want to stop that. So you might retire from that because you've made enough money, but then you need to dedicate the rest of your time to something more active as well, something that's more rewarding, something that's getting more close to Allah Ta'ala. So you swap it. So our aim is, if you do want to retire early from what you would call normal work, is so that you can replace that, do something that gets you more close to Allah Ta'ala. Not that you go around and sit on the beach, or not that you go and chill out and relax and enjoy yourself. It's about doing that, because last few minutes for Azan, everything we do, whether you look at financial independence, or you look at national independence, or you look at anything else, you always need to come back to your first principles as a Muslim. So you pick up any book at the Tasawwuf, they'll always start off by talking about what was the purpose of our creation. So before you set off on this journey of the Tasawwuf, or of being a Muslim or a Ibadat, realize why you were created. Why did Allah Ta'ala create you? Allah Ta'ala didn't create you to come and chill out here. Allah Ta'ala didn't send you on this earth to come and relax and enjoy this life. Remember, this is called Darul Amal. This is the place of action, this is the place of Amal. That links back to the work. This life, you come to do actions and deeds, which is why on the day of judgment your deeds will be weighed and measured and counted. So this life is there to weigh. Allah Ta'ala will measure the scales. So you want more and more in your scales. This is Darul Amal. This is when you come to work. So you are supposed to be working here. And our work is to please Allah Ta'ala. It's to get closer to Allah Ta'ala. So our aim in this life is not to enjoy this life. So unlike the Westerners who want to get financial independence so that they can enjoy this life, as a Muslim, our purpose isn't to enjoy life. We will enjoy the next life. Next life is when we will have true freedom. So when I said earlier that we're not free in this dunya, we're not, because we're constrained. But in the other dunya, Allah said, that those people whose scales are heavy, they will be in Ishat Radia, they will have a life that will make them pleased, as it will do what they want to do. Imam Qurtubi in Tafsir mentions how that will be, and he says that whatever the person will want in Jannah, that will happen. Whatever you want in Jannah will happen. So you could be sitting here, you just need to think about a tree and it will come to you. You just need to think about a fruit and it will appear to you. You won't even have to move. Things will appear for you. Wherever you go, rivers of water, of milk and honey will walk with you. Whatever you want, you won't get old. You know, I talk about heaven, in this world you can't stop yourself dying, you can't stop yourself aging. But in that world, you will never age. You never get old. You never be ill. I said, the weather kind of stops you, or you might be ill. You plan a great holiday, and 2 days for the holiday you fall ill or you break your leg. That will never happen in Jannah. That's where we have true freedom. That's where our independence will come. That's where we'll be able to retire. You'll have a life that pleases you. Here you please Allah Ta'ala. There the life will please you. So that's where our true freedom will come as a Muslim. So you realize that this dunya isn't about being free. This dunya is not about us enjoying ourselves here, having pleasure. It's here to do more action. So as we said earlier, if you only work to 40, 50 and then you retire and stop doing any deeds, how's your scale going to be heavy? And remember this, as a Muslim, if you're not doing good deeds, you're doing bad deeds. As a true Muslim, there is no neutral position. Why? Because in the Tafsir of Surah Asr of time, it said that a human being is always that the human being is always in loss. He's always in loss. And the Mufassirin said he's in loss is because if he's doing sin, he's wasting his time, isn't it? He's doing sin, that's bad. He's accumulating sin. And if he's not doing anything, you're still doing bad. So if he's not doing anything and you're just sitting there doing nothing, you're still doing bad because you're wasting that time. You could have been doing some good in that time. So you're wasting that time. You could have been doing some good in that time. So although you might think I'm not doing anything, and you want to chill out and relax, but you could have been doing something positive. So even when you are chilling out, you want to make that into a way that you are gaining reward. And you're gaining reward by actually doing the tasbih, you're gaining reward by reflecting upon Allah Ta'ala, doing the zikr of Allah Ta'ala. Unless you reach a stage where actually you're a scholar. When you're a scholar, it said in the hadith that a scholar, when he goes to sleep, actually gets reward for sleeping. Because he's going to sleep with the intention of getting rest, so when he wakes up, he can do more active work. So unless you're in that category, the rest of the time you're actually losing out by doing nothing, so you've got to do something. And the ulama then said that even if you're doing good, you're still losing out. Because there's a better good you could have been doing. So say if you're reading namaz, you get a reward for that namaz. But if you had knowledge and understanding of what you were reading, you would get even greater knowledge, even greater reward, because you'll be getting even more further from that. And the knowledge of Allah Ta'ala never ends. So there's always a level that you could have been at, which is what you need to attempt to get to do. So we break for Azan and then we do timings. And like the buffet system, you can eat too much, you can have too much. It starts to get bad, so you've always got to have everything in moderation. And make sure it sticks. So the concept of financial independence and how that relates to a Muslim. Western financial independence that people get, independent, they don't need to work anymore. And then they can chill out, retire. And I said, as a Muslim, it's not about chilling out, retiring, because this life for us is not about chilling. It's about doing good deeds, about getting close to Allah Ta'ala. So, if we do become financially independent, if somebody is rich enough and lucky enough that they do get to a stage where they don't need to work for money, it doesn't mean they go chill out and rest. They need to think about what can they now do more productive to get close to Allah Ta'ala and earn deeds. So ideally, you want to get to a situation where your job or your work is linked to getting close to Allah Ta'ala. So if that's good, then you keep doing that more and more. Because you're not doing it for the money, you're doing it to get close to Allah Ta'ala, you're getting both. So always try and see if there's multiple benefits in what you do. So in every act or every deed, see if you get two benefits from it. So rather than just getting the one single benefit, if you go to work and that work also gives you enjoyment, and it also gets you close to Allah Ta'ala and allows you to meet your friends, because you've got friends at work, that's really good because you get many benefits from that. It's not seen as a chore, it's not seen as a burden. So similarly, if you are, say, a doctor or an engineer and you're serving the people or you're a scholar, you can't then say after 20 years I'm going to retire now, because what about the rest of your life? You should be there serving the people. Allah Ta'ala has given you the skill to serve the people, and you serve the people. So remember, every skill that you've been given is from Allah Ta'ala. No matter, even if you went to university and you worked really hard and you were hard, it's a skill from Allah Ta'ala. Because a lot of people were in the same class, listened to the same lesson, and some of you became doctors and other of you didn't. What was the difference? You both got the same brain, the same size of brain, you got the same brain cells. What was different? It was Allah Ta'ala's bestowment. Allah Ta'ala chose you for that. And don't think you're lucky. It's actually a responsibility. A lot of people, want to become leaders and want to become politicians and want to become, leaders of this. It's a massive responsibility. Sayyidina Amir Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala, who, ruled a massive empire. The companion of Prophet ruled a massive empire. On his deathbed, he said, if only I could have been a Bedouin in a village and not had all this empire, not had all this, because it's such a massive responsibility that you'll be held account for. If you want to become a leader, true people who understand the meaning of that run away from those positions. A lot of people want to become committee members of mosques, etc. If you knew the responsibility you were taking on by becoming a committee member of a masjid, you wouldn't go anywhere near it. Because the amount of accountability you will have to give, the decisions you're making affecting the people. So you will be asked about everything that you've done. So if Allah Ta'ala has given you a skill, you need to be worried about that. In the sense of, am I really using that the way Allah Ta'ala wants me to use that? So if you do get to a position where you are independent and you don't need to work, you then need to think about, what do I do with that time? Because if you don't use that time properly, the devil's going to lead you astray and lead you to bad things. So coming on to, what does Islam want us to do? Or what does Islam say about financial independence? Does Islam want us to be financially independent? So with this, there's a verse in Surah Ad-Duha, وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. Allah Ta'ala says to the Prophet ﷺ that وَوَجَدَكَ, we found you عَائِلًا, needy, فَأَغْنَى, and we made you rich. So Allah Ta'ala says that we found you needy, we found you poor, and we made you rich. So Allah Ta'ala gave the Prophet ﷺ money, wealth. And there's two tafseers of this. The first is that Allah Ta'ala gave the Prophet ﷺ lots and lots of wealth. Wealth that we can't think about. Firstly, he gave that through the marriage of Sayyidah Khadija